On September 10, 2001, the city of New York held its breath, unknowingly waiting for a day that would change everything. But in the quiet hours before the storm, a different mystery began to unfold. A doctor, a wife, a woman full of life, walked out of her apartment building and into the shadows of the city, never to be seen again. This is the haunting story of Dr. Sneha Anne Philip, a disappearance that remains one of New York's most perplexing and tragic cold cases, a story so intertwined with the events of September 11th that untangling fact from theory has become nearly impossible. Dr. Sneha Anne Philip was, by all accounts, a woman with a bright future. At 31, she was an internal medicine resident, living in a cozy apartment in Manhattan's Battery Park City with her husband, Ron Lieberman, also a doctor. She was described as vibrant, artistic, and deeply compassionate. Friends and family saw a dedicated physician who cared deeply for her patients, but like many people, her life had complexities. Reports suggested she was facing some professional challenges and personal stress in the months leading up to her disappearance. She was a woman at a crossroads, navigating the pressures of a demanding career and life in a relentless city. On the evening of September 10th, those complexities would become the backdrop for an enduring mystery. She left her apartment that afternoon, seemingly for a routine shopping trip, stepping out into the late summer air. It was the last time her husband would ever see her. The last verifiable trace of Sneha Philip comes from a place of mundane, everyday life, a department store. Surveillance footage from the Century 21 department store, located right across from the World Trade Center complex, captures her at approximately 6 p.m. The grainy images show her browsing, unhurried. She purchased a dress, lingerie, pantyhose, and linens for the guest bedroom. Her credit card transactions paint a picture of a woman preparing for the week ahead, expecting to return to the life she knew. She also bought 3 pairs of shoes. After leaving the store around 6:30 p.m., the electronic trail ends. The concrete trail vanishes. She steps out of the store's automatic doors and into thin air. No one reported seeing her. No taxi driver came forward. Her credit cards were never used again. It was as if the city itself swallowed her whole. Her husband, Ron Lieberman, arrived home from his shift at the hospital around midnight to an empty apartment. This wasn't immediately alarming. Sneha was known to sometimes stay out late with friends or her brother. But as the hours stretched into the early morning, unease began to creep in. Her keys, her wallet, and her identification were gone. Critically, her cell phone and passport were left behind in the apartment. Sometime after Ron went to bed, a building security camera in their lobby recorded 2 brief, indistinct images of a woman who resembled Sneha entering the building around 4 a.m. The quality was poor, the angle was bad, and the footage was fleeting. Was it her, returning home in the dead of night? Or was it another resident, a simple case of mistaken identity that would later fuel years of speculation? To this day, no one knows for sure who that woman was. That grainy image is the last potential clue before the world turned upside down. The next morning, at 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Ron was awakened by a phone call from his mother-in-law, checking to see if they were okay. The unimaginable was happening just blocks from their home, as chaos and horror engulfed Lower Manhattan. Ron's immediate focus was on finding Sneha. He frantically called hospitals, friends, and family, but no one had heard from her. Her family's prevailing belief, the one they hold on to, is rooted in who Sneha was as a person, a doctor. They believed that upon seeing the unfolding catastrophe, her medical training and compassionate instincts took over. They imagined her running, not away from the danger, but directly toward it, using her skills to help the wounded at ground zero. In this narrative, Sneha Philip died a hero, consumed by the dust and debris while saving others. For years, this was the unofficial story. In 2008, after a long legal battle, a New York appellate court officially ruled to have her name added to the 9/11's Victims Memorial, legally declaring she died at the World Trade Center. But for investigators, the case was never that simple. The timing of her disappearance, a full day before the attacks, created nagging questions that couldn't be ignored, leading to several alternative theories. The most prominent theory is, of course, that she perished on 9/11's. As a doctor living minutes from the towers, it's a completely plausible scenario that she was among the first civilian responders on the scene. Her medical bag was never found, and her family believes she would have grabbed it on her way out to help. The lack of any remains is not unusual. Thousands of victims were never physically recovered. This theory gives her family a sense of purpose and honors her memory as a hero who made the ultimate sacrifice. It provides a conclusion, albeit a tragic one. The second theory is foul play on the night of September 10th. What happened in the hours after she left the department store? Detectives considered the possibility that she met someone, either planned or by chance, and that this encounter turned violent. New York City, even in 2001, had its dangers. Did she fall victim to a random act of violence? Was she targeted by someone she knew? The personal struggles she was reportedly facing at the time, including alleged marital issues and a double life involving nightlife, opened up avenues of investigation into whether she might have been in a vulnerable situation. Without any crime scene, any witnesses, or any evidence, this theory remains pure speculation, a dark what-if that haunts the case. A third, less common theory, is that of a voluntary disappearance. Could Sneha have used the chaos of 9/11s as a cover to walk away from her life and start a new one? This idea suggests she packed a bag, not with items for her home, but for an escape. While intriguing, this theory has little evidence to support it. She left her passport, her glasses, and a significant amount of money in her bank account. Starting a new life without these essentials would have been incredibly difficult. Her family has always adamantly rejected this possibility, insisting she would never abandon them. It's a narrative that paints a picture of a calculated plan, but her final actions seem more impulsive than premeditated. There has never been a single credible sighting of Sneha Philip anywhere in the world since that day. Finally, there's the theory that hinges on that broken security camera. What if the woman entering her building at 4 a.m. wasn't Sneha at all? What if something happened to her between the department store and her apartment building? If she never made it home on the night of the 10th? Then her disappearance is completely separate from the events of 9/11s. Her case would then be a standard, albeit deeply mysterious, missing person case. The terrorist attacks on the following day would have simply been a tragic coincidence that diverted all law enforcement resources and public attention, leaving her case to go cold almost immediately. In this scenario, the 9/11's connection that defines her story might be nothing more than a red herring, an accident of time and place that has obscured the truth for over 2 decades. In the end, we are left with a void, a collection of theories, but no answers. The story of Sneha Anne Philip is a mirror reflecting our deepest fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of random tragedy, and the fear that someone we love can simply vanish. Did she die a hero in the crucible of 9/11s? Was she the victim of a crime lost in the fog of a national tragedy, or did she choose to disappear? The truth is buried somewhere in the final, unrecorded hours of her life, and perhaps under the rubble of the city itself. Her name is etched in stone at the 9/11's memorial, a final official declaration, but for many, her story remains an unsettling question mark. A ghost in the machine of history. A name whispered on the winds that blow through the canyons of Lower Manhattan. The mystery of what happened to Dr. Sneha Philip is a somber reminder that even within a world-changing event, individual stories can get lost, leaving behind only silence and questions that may never be answered. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more unsolved mysteries.